Good afternoon and welcome to our chapter read aloud. This week we're going to be starting on a new book. It's a Newbery Award winner by Erin Entrada Kelly and it's called Hello Universe. And this is the story of four young people, all middle school. Virgil Salinas is shy and misunderstood. Valencia Somerset is clever and stubborn. Kyoki Tanaka tells fortunes and reads the stars. Chet the Bull Bullens is the biggest bully in the neighborhood. They aren't friends. They don't all go to the same school. But when Chet pulls an unthinkable prank on Virgil and Virgil's pet guinea pig, Gulliver, the lives of these four middle schoolers collide in surprising and unexpected ways. Just a coincidence? Or are some things meant to be? Hello Universe. And this is published by Green Willow Books, which is an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers, and we thank them for permission to read to you today. We have a dedication page to Carol Ann, My Beautiful Complex Aquarius, and Jen Breen, Gemini Phoenix Visionary, and a beautiful little picture drawing of a bird's nest. Chapter 1, Grand Failure. I don't know if you can see the little guinea pig. That's Gulliver. 11-year-old Virgil Salinas already regretted the rest of middle school, and he'd only just finished 6th grade. He imagined all those years stretching out ahead of him like a long line of hurdles, each of them getting taller, thicker, and heavier, and him standing in front of them on his weak and skinny legs. He was no good at hurdles. He found this out the hard way in gym class, where he was the smallest, most forgettable, and always picked last. All things considered, he should have been happy on the last day of school. The year was over. He should have been skipping home, ready to tackle the bright summer ahead. Instead, he walked through the front door like a defeated athlete, head low, shoulders hunched, a sack of disappointment sitting on his chest like an anvil. Because today, it was official. He was a grand failure. "Oi, Virgilio," said his grandmother, his Lola, when he came in. She didn't look up. She was in the kitchen slicing a mango. "Come take one of these. Your mother brought too many again. They were on sale, so she buys 10. And what do we need 10 mangoes for? They're not even from the Philippines. They're from Venezuela. Your mother brought 10 Venezuelan mangoes, and for what? That woman would buy kisses from Judas if they were on sale." She shook her head. Virgil straightened his posture so Lola wouldn't suspect anything wrong. He took a mango from the fruit bowl. Lola's eyebrows immediately scrunched together, only they weren't really eyebrows because she'd plucked them clean. "What's wrong? Why do you have that look?" she said. "What look?" Virgil said. "You know." Lola didn't like to explain herself. "Is that pug-faced boy at school being mean to you again?" "No, Lola." For once, that was the least of his worries. "Everything's fine." Said Lola. She knew everything wasn't fine. She noticed everything about him. They had a secret kinship. It had been that way ever since the first day she'd come from the Philippines to live with them. On the morning she arrived, Virgil's parents and identical twin brothers immediately rushed her in a flood of hugs and hellos. With the exception of Virgil, that's how the Salinas family was. Big personalities that bubbled over like pots of soup. Virgil felt like unbuttered toast standing next to them. "Ay, sus, my first moments in America will be filled with a pulsing headache," Lola said. She pressed her fingertips to her temples and waved toward Virgil's older brothers, who were tall and lean and muscled even then. "Joselito, Julius, fetch my bags, huh? I want to say hello to my youngest grandson." After Joselito and Julius scurried off, ever the helpful brothers, Virgil's parents presented him like a rare exhibit they didn't quite understand. "This is Turtle," his mother said. That was their name for him. Turtle, because he wouldn't come out of his shell. Every time they said it, a piece of him broke. Lola had squatted in front of him and whispered, "You are my favorite, Virgilio." And then she put her finger to her lips and said, "Don't tell your brothers." That was 6 years ago, and he knew he was still her favorite, even though she'd never say so again. He could trust Lola, and maybe one day he would confess his secret to her, that one that made him a grand failure. But not now, not today. Lola took the mango from him. "Let me me slice that for you, she said. Virgil stood next to her and watched. Lola was old and her fingers felt like paper, but she sliced mangoes like an artist. She started slowly, biding her time. You know, she began, I had a dream about the stone boy again last night. She'd been dreaming about the stone boy for days now. The dream was always the same. A shy boy, not unlike Virgil. Gets terribly lonely, takes a walk in the forest, and begs a rock to eat him. The biggest stone opens its gravelly mouth and the boy jumps inside, never to be seen again. When his parents find the stone, there's nothing they can do. Virgil wasn't sure how hard his parents would try to get him out anyway, but he knew Lola would hand-chisel that rock to pieces if she had to. Promise not to jump into any rocks, Virgil said. I know there's something going on with you, Anna. You have the face of Federico the Sorrowful. Who's Federico the Sorrowful? He was a boy king who was sad all the time, but he didn't want anyone to know he was sad because he wanted people to think he was a strong king. But one day he just couldn't hold in his sorrows anymore. It all came out, just like a fountain. She lifted her hands in the air to mimic splashing water, still holding the paring knife in one of them. He wept and wept until the whole land flooded and the islands drifted away from each other. He wound up trapped on an island all alone until a crocodile came and ate him. She handed a beautiful slice of mango to Virgil. Here. Virgil took it. Lola, can I ask you a question? If you ever have a question, ask it. How come so many of your stories have boys getting eaten by stuff like rocks or crocodiles? Not all of them are about boys getting eaten. Sometimes it's girls. Lola tossed the knife into the sink and raised her non-eyebrows. If you decide to talk, you come find your Lola. Don't burst like a fountain and float away. Okay, Virgil said. I'm going to my room to check on Gulliver, make sure he's okay. Gulliver, his pet guinea pig, was always happy to see him. He would chirp as soon as Virgil opened the door. He knew it. Maybe he wouldn't feel like such a failure then. Why wouldn't he be okay? Lola called down as Virgil walked toward his room. Guinea pigs can't get into much trouble, Anna. Virgil could hear her laughing as he placed the mango between his teeth. Chapter 2. Valencia. I'm not sure what God looks like. I don't know if there's one big God in heaven, or if there's 2 or 3 or 30, or maybe one for each person. I'm not sure if God is a boy or a girl or an old man with a white beard. But it doesn't matter. I just feel safe knowing someone's listening. I mostly talk to Saint Rene. His real name is Renatus Goupil. He was a French missionary who traveled to Canada. While he was there, he made the sign of the cross over a kid's head, and they thought he was spreading curses, so they took him prisoner and killed him. I found out about him because on my 10th birthday, this girl, Roberta, gave me a book called Famous Deaf People in History. I would have never given Roberta a book about famous blonde people, or famous people who talk too much, or famous people who tried to cheat off my spelling paper, all of which describe Roberta. But the good thing was that I found out about Saint Rene. I don't know sign language, but I taught myself the alphabet, so I made up a sign name for Saint Rene. I crossed my middle finger over my index finger, the sign for R, and tap 3 times lightly against my lips. That's one of the first things I do after I take off my hearing aids for the night. Then I stare at the ceiling and imagine my prayers traveling up, 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 and hovering over my bed until they lift all the way through the roof. And then I imagine them landing on a cloud and sitting there waiting to be answered. When I was younger, I thought the cloud would get so heavy that my prayers would come falling down and I'd have everything I wished for. But now I'm 11, so I know better. I still picture them sailing up, though. There's no harm in that. I only pray at night because it's my least favorite time of day. Everything is still and dark, and I have too much time to think. One thought leads to another until it's 2 in the morning and I haven't slept a wink. Or I've slept, but not well. I didn't always hate the nighttime. I used to crawl into bed and drift off to sleep, no problem. It's not because of the dark. It's never bothered me. One time my parents took me to this place called Crystal Caverns where you went underground and couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. I wasn't scared at all. I loved it down there. I felt like an explorer. Afterward, my dad bought me a souvenir snow globe, only there are bats inside instead of snow. I keep it right next to me on my nightstand, and I shake it before I go to sleep, just because. So it's not the dark that keeps me awake, it's the nightmare. The nightmare goes like this. I'm standing in a big open field, one I've never stood in before. The grass is yellow and brown under my feet, and I'm surrounded by thick crowds of people. Nightmare me knows who they are, even though they don't look like anyone I know in real life. They all look at me with round black eyes without whites in them. Then a girl in a blue dress steps forward. Away from the crowd, she says 2 words. Solar eclipse. I know what she's saying, even though I'm not wearing my hearing aids, and she doesn't move her mouth. That's how it is in dreams sometimes. The girl is pointing skyward. Nightmare me looks up to where she's pointing and watches attentively, not scared yet. I crane my neck, all along with everyone else. We all watch as the moon moves in front of the sun. The blazing blue sky turns gray, then dark, and Nightmare me thinks it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Strange how nightmares work, though. Somehow Nightmare me knows things won't end well. As soon as the moon finishes passing the sun, my blood rushes into my ears and my palms dampened with sweat. I look down from the sky, slowly, not wanting to see, and just as I suspected, everyone is gone. The whole crowd, even the girl in the dress. Nothing moves, not one single blade of grass. The field stretches on for miles and miles. The moon has pulled everyone away, all but Nightmare me. I'm the only person on the face of the earth. That's a kind of scary nightmare, isn't it? I can't tell what time it is, but I know it's late. Like, past midnight late. As hard as I want not to think about the nightmare, here I am, lying in bed and thinking about it. I shake my crystal cavern's globe and watch the bats flutter around. And then I try to focus on the bumpy paint on my bedroom ceiling. My dad calls it popcorn paint. When I was a little girl, we'd pretend the ceiling was really made of popcorn, and we'd open our mouths wide, and let it fall in. Next time I'll paint a licorice ceiling, my dad would say. He'd like to say that Twizzlers were one of his favorite food groups. I'd shake my head and say, chocolate, chocolate, chocolate was our routine. We don't do things like that anymore. I don't think he knows how to dad to an 11-year-old. You can't sit an 11-year-old on your shoulders, especially not when she's all knees and elbows and 5'5", and you can't make hot chocolate and wait up for Santa Claus or read picture books. But it's still nice to remember the popcorn licorice chocolate ceiling. It's better than thinking about the nightmare. I close my eyes and feel the hum of the ceiling fan against my cheeks. I make a promise to myself. If I have another nightmare tonight, I'll talk to someone and ask for help. I don't know who, but someone, not my mom. Don't get me wrong. There are times when my mom is easy to talk to. If you catch her on a good day, she isn't too mom-like, but I can never tell which mom I'll get. Sometimes she's overprotective, overbearing, over everything. I once asked her flat out if she treated me that way because I'm deaf, because that's what it feels like sometimes. I'm not overprotective because you're deaf. I'm overprotective because I'm your mother, she said. But something in her eyes told me that wasn't the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I'm good at reading eyes, same as lips. I most definitely don't want Mom to know about the nightmare. She'd start asking me about it every morning and every night and insist that I see a psychiatrist or something. Then again, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. Maybe then I'll get some sleep. Close my eyes. Think of something nice. The coming summer. Yes, that's what I'll think about. 6th grade is over and the nice lazy summer stretches ahead. Okay, so maybe I don't have a gazillion friends to hang out with. So what? I'll make my own fun. I'll explore the woods and take notes for my zoological diary. Maybe draw some bird sketches. There's plenty to do. I don't need a gazillion friends. I don't even need one. All I need is me, right? Solo. That's the best way to go. It's a lot less trouble. Chapter 3. Help of a different nature. Gulliver is a good friend, guinea pig or not. Virgil could tell him anything and he wouldn't judge, and that's what Virgil needed. Only he also needed real practical guidance. He needed help of a different nature. Lola had once told Virgil a story about a woman named Diapon who'd been hungry for 7 years because she didn't know how to grow food. One day, Diapon wept because all she wanted was 1 grain of rice and 1 pea pod, anything to put in her belly. She took a bath in a spring to wash away her tears, and a great spirit appeared to her with armfuls of sugar cane and rice. The great spirit gave it all to Diapon and told her exactly what she needed to do to grow more. Diapon was never hungry again. Virgil wished that he had a great spirit that could tell him exactly what to do, but he only had Coyote Tanaka. Virgil fed Gulliver and texted Coyote as he walked down the hall for breakfast. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't text someone at 7:45 in the morning, especially not on the first day of summer. But nothing about Coyote was normal. Besides, she always seemed to be awake. His text says, "Need appointment this afternoon, if that's okay." Virgil slipped his phone into the pocket of his pajamas and followed the unmistakable sounds of his parents and brothers, who were early risers because they seemed to have an endless stream of soccer practices. In the kitchen, Mom, Dad, and the Jays were drinking orange juice and letting their personalities bubble over, while Virgil tried to maneuver through all the excitement so he could get a piece of fruit or boil an egg. "Good morning, Virgilio," said Joselito. "Good morning, Turtle," said his parents, almost in unison. Then Julius, "My young buntag, little brother." Virgil grumbled something like hello. His parents and brothers were sitting in the high-backed chairs at the counter. Lola was at the breakfast table reading the newspaper. "Your mother brought too many clementines, so eat as many as you can," said Lola without looking up. Then she clucked her tongue at all this wastefulness. Virgil grabbed 2 clementines in each hand and tried hard not to drop them as he sat next to her. His phone buzzed in his pocket. "What are you reading about, Lola?" Virgil asked. He arranged his clementines in a perfect line in front of him and then checked his phone. The text said, "I am available. Be here at noon sharp." Virgil laid the phone face down on the table next to the clementines. "Death and destruction across the universe," said Lola. "Godlessness around every corner." Julius craned his neck their way. "Oh, Lola, don't be such a downer." Virgil had long suspected that his brothers were crafted out of a factory that made perfect, athletic, perpetually happy children, and he was made from all the leftover parts. The only sign that something went wrong with Joselita and Julius were their pinky fingers, which turned slightly inward. Virgil studied his own hands as they worked away at the peel of the clementine. His fingers were long and slender. None of them turned inward. "Lola, do you know anything about hands?" he asked. He glanced at Joselito and Julius, but they were busy talking about soccer. Their father had recently joined a grown-up soccer league. Everyone was wild about soccer, except Virgil. Lola set down her newspaper. "I know that they have 5 fingers each most of the time." "What do you mean, most of the time?" "I once knew a girl in my village who was born with an extra thumb." "Really? What did they do with it? Did she go to the doctor, get it chopped off?" "No, her family was poor. They couldn't afford a doctor." "What did they do then?" "Keep the extra thumb." "What else? Did she feel like a freak?" "Maybe, but I told her God must know something she didn't, and that's why he did it." "Maybe he wanted her to be an excellent hitchhiker," Virgil said. "Maybe. Or maybe she was like a Ruby San Salvador." "Who is Ruby San Salvador?" "Another girl from my village. She had 7 sisters. Each time one of them was born, her parents had their fortunes read. But when they got to Ruby San Salvador, no one was able to see her future. Anytime someone tried, they just got a blank picture. No one knew what it meant. She walked around all the time saying, 'What is my destiny? What is my destiny?' Finally, I said, 'No one knows, but you're driving us crazy.'" Virgil thought of poor Ruby San Salvador, watching all her sisters get something that she couldn't have. "What happened to her?" "She left to go figure it out. Village got much quieter without all the questions." Lola narrowed her eyes at him. "What's this about, Virgilito? Of all the questions in the world you could ask, why are you asking about hands?" "I just noticed that all my fingers are nice and straight, don't you think?" He set the clementine peels aside and put his hands on the table to show her. Lola nodded. "Yes, you have beautiful hands. You have the hands of a gifted pianist. We should put you in piano lessons." "Lee?" she called to Virgil's mother. "Lee?" "Yes, Madame," said Virgil's mother, who was in the middle of laughing. She was always in the middle of laughing. "How come you never put Virgilio in piano lessons, huh? He has the hands of a pianist." But Virgil's father answered instead, "Because boys need to play sports, not fool around on a silly piano. Right, Turtle?" Virgil shoved half a clementine in his mouth. Mr. Salinas lifted his glass of orange juice. "He just needs to put meat on his bones." Lola fixed her eyes on Virgil's hands and shook her head. "Ay, sus," she mumbled. "You should play the piano and all. You could play in Madison Square Garden with fingers like that, I have no doubt." "Maybe I'll take lessons," Virgil said. His voice garbled around the fruit. Yes, good idea," said Lola. She shifted her eyes to his face and studied it. "You feeling better today, Anna?" Virgil swallowed the clementine and nodded. Said Lola. "How's that little pet of yours?" "He's okay. But last night I read online that guinea pigs aren't supposed to live alone because they're very social animals." So, Gulliver's alone. Is that what's bothering you? Gulliver had nothing to do with his grand failure, and normally Virgil wouldn't tell a lie. But this was the situation where saying yes would kill two birds with one stone, or feed two birds with one seed, as Coyote liked to say. He might get another guinea pig, and Lola would stop asking about his sorrowful face. So he said, yes? Lola nodded. She didn't understand why anyone would want a pet guinea pig, but everyone knew what it was like to be lonely. I'll talk to your mother, she said. And that's enough for today. Next week we'll continue the story and learn a little bit more about Coyote Tanaka and get into what happens during the summer. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.